for the few people that say, well, he probably wouldn't have been fired if he wasn't at the end of his career already. He wouldn't have been pushed out the door had he not had the homophobic slur in that radio interview a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. That this might not have been the end of his career with a different pretext. I have to say, I completely disagree. I do not think if you see the details of this DUI, there's any way the state's most highly paid employee, most visible person, I don't think that human being can survive this. It is that bad. And I don't think any DUI should be minimized, primarily because, of course, you can hurt yourself and that would be bad. But the worst thing is when you hurt other people that didn't make a bad decision. When you hurt other people or rip apart other people's families who were doing nothing wrong. That, to me, is crushing. And I have very little tolerance for DUIs, DWIs, and things of this nature. I realize they happen a lot. It does not mean they should be accepted. I realize there's always redemption in society, and that's a good thing as well. But I don't think any of these incidents should ever be minimized. And that being said, Bob Huggins is 69 years old. No better. Bob Huggins was in Pittsburgh. This guy got so tanked, number one. He got the DUI at 8:30 p.m. He blew a 210. In most states, legal driving limit is .08. So this guy was about 2.5 times over the legal limit by 8:30. This wasn't 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. This guy got lit during the day and started driving around. He was in Pittsburgh. They found his car stalled in the middle of the road with a shredded tire and his driver's side door open. And people wondering, what's going on? Did Bob Huggins call the authorities? Did Bob Huggins call the police? Did Bob Huggins call AAA? No, Bob Huggins didn't know where he was. This guy was so blotto, he shredded his tire. Cops came up and said, hey, man, you're going to have to move this car to the side of the road. You're in the middle of the road. Once they observed him doing so, they said, oh, this guy's smashed. They said, Bob, do you know where you are? No. Bob, where do you think you are? I don't know. They asked this guy 10 times, Bob Huggins, where are you? His best guess was Columbus. He's in Pittsburgh. So how destroyed do you have to be behind the wheel of a car to where you think you're in Columbus, Ohio, and you're actually in Pittsburgh? Number two, Bob Huggins clearly is a threat to everybody on the road, driving and walking and riding a bike and everything. During the day, he is obliterated driving around Pittsburgh. Doesn't know where he is, enough to shred his tire. Doesn't know how he shredded the tire. Doesn't know what he hit, what happened. He provides to them a receipt from Burger King that he had been at a couple of hours earlier or whatever. So he drove to BK like this, got whatever he wanted to eat, and then drove around the city from Burger King, this smash blowing a .210, and they saw in the passenger side of his car, he's driving alone, by the way, a garbage bag filled with empty beer cans. So dude is smashing beers, throwing them in a garbage bag on the passenger side. They open up the trunk. There's another bag of empty beer bottles in the trunk. They look in the center console, and just behind the center console, Bob Huggins has a cooler of beers. So Bob is riding around Pittsburgh during the early evening, late afternoon, smashed out of his mind, and he's pulling beers from the center console cooler, drinking them as he's driving. The guy shreds his tire, doesn't know where he is, and is killing beers in the car as he drives. I don't care what time in your career it is, how many Final Fours or Sweet 16s or national championships you've gone to. At least Rick Pitino was trying to win games as he violated NCAA rules. He's not putting anybody else at risk. Here is Bob Huggins operating a weapon, a vehicle, when you are at a .210 and crushing beers while driving is a weapon. He couldn't survive this. There's no way. Forget the homophobic slur, which shouldn't be minimized either, but that has nothing to do with this to me. He had another DUI back in 2004. Fine, that's ancient history, you want to say, nearly 20 years ago. This incident for a 69-year-old man who is the state's highest paid employee and the most visible person in the state. That is it. It doesn't matter how much success you have. This is a series of the worst decision-making. At what point does Bob Huggins go, yeah, maybe not the best idea? I mean, look at that series of decisions. Look at that series of decisions. Either a guy that is in a really dark, bad personal space and doesn't care if he gets caught. Maybe somebody who's begging for mercy, who is out there, a cry for help. Somebody stop me. Or maybe a guy that feels like he's indestructible. Maybe a guy that says rules don't apply to me. But you are nearly 70 and you're crushing beers out of a cooler in the car as you hold down a multi-million-dollar job that's the most visible in the state and one of the most visible in your sport. I mean, it's like you're so beyond knowing that's wrong when you're 69 years old. You're so beyond that, and you're also entrusted with teaching kids rights from wrongs and hard work and discipline and making good decisions. That's what you're entrusted with. You don't survive this. I don't care if you've gone to 1 million Final Fours. This is not survivable. So, sorry, good riddance, had a good career, but do I feel bad for Bob Huggins? No. I'd feel bad for the family that he ripped apart, had at .210, he drove to the wrong side of traffic and smashed into somebody head on. I'd feel bad for the human being that was in the other car as he blew out his tire in a town he didn't know he was in and smashed into them on the highway. No, I don't feel bad for Bob Huggins. It's over. It's done. Old man, bad decision, drunk, whatever. Get him out. That's it. There is no room for that. And that's one of those things where I don't want to hear about redemption. Let him come back, small school. No. You have to go through so many checkpoints to get to that point that you blew through. No. That's it. Now you shrivel up. Now you embarrass yourself, your family, the university, and now you live in shame. That's just the bit. You can't blow through every checkpoint and then be like, oh, but he definitely deserves a redemption story. But he did a lot of good things. I mean, come on. Awful. That's awful. And you're also at a point where you know you're being scrutinized because of the radio interview in Cincinnati earlier in the offseason. You already know that, you kind of are on a bit of a zero tolerance policy. And this is your reaction. You might as well just quit then. Instead of putting the entire town and city in danger, just quit. If you don't want the job, just quit. If you feel like there's too much scrutiny, just quit. We ask these young people, the hypocrisy of asking young people to always do the right thing, and then the old guy in charge of the young people does the exact opposite of what he would stand for. Imagine his player did this. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I was so drunk and I was crushing beers out of a cooler in the car. I had a garbage bag full of empties next to me and didn't know where I was. oh, yeah, I'm sure that guy would continue playing on that team. I'm sure they wouldn't revoke his scholarship for that. I mean, give me a break.